Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Audiobooks for Youth. My name is Heather Booth, and I'm the editor of the audiobook section here at Booklist. Welcome. Before we begin, I'd like to go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and the title list, which everybody's always so eager to see, were included in the reminder email that you received from Zoom about an hour ago. To download them, just open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links that are located there. You can also download the slides and the title list by typing the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble at all accessing these materials, just contact us. Our email is webinars@booklistonline.com. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we welcome any questions you might have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a button for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, just click the Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We'll do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we'll pass along all other questions to today's panelists so they can follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all of its webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the captions icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide captions from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting caption settings. And finally, Booklist does expect all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from Michele Cobb, the Audio Sales Director for LA Theater Works, Jennifer Rubens, the Associate Director of Library Marketing for Penguin Random House, and Jolene Bartow, Marketing Director at Dreamscape Media. First, we'll hear from Michele Cobb. Michele is the Executive Director of the Audio Publishers Association and Audio Sales Director for LA Theater Works, with some of my favorite things, statistics about audiobooks. Thank you so much for joining us, Michele.
Glad to be here, and happy June is Audiobook Month to everyone. The APA, you may know us for our statistics and also, of course, for our awards. Today, I'm going to actually talk to you about two different surveys that we do, the consumer data from Edison Research and our sales survey from Taluna Harris. All right, let's take a look at some of that data. Well, it's been another year of great growth in audio. Audiobooks continue to really outstrip the rise of any other publishing format in terms of growth. You can see just the last 5 years of data, and although we are not double-digit growth this year, we are pretty darn close. You can see in 2021, we had that huge bump around the pandemic, but we continue to go strong. All right, let's take a look at some other data. So the good news is that more than half of adults in the US, that's 18 and up, have ever listened to an audiobook. That's super exciting. So it's 149 million Americans say they have ever listened to an audiobook. And we found that 4.8 on average audiobooks were listened to per year. That was a big leap from what we saw in 2023. So more people doing more listening. In the last year, 38% of people have listened to an audiobook, and that was up to 6.8 average audiobooks per year, up from 6.3 in 2023. So again, more people listening and more people listening more. We love that. All right, next up. People with children have really stuck around with audiobooks. Those increased significantly during the pandemic because people really wanted their kids to get away from screens. And in fact, adults say, even for themselves, that a benefit to listening to audiobooks is that they can, in fact, take a break from screens. We're seeing more and more people subscribing to audiobooks. That could be in the credit model or in a more, unlimited type model. Those models in the US often have a number of hours max that you can listen to. And of course, the exciting stat for everyone here, and thanks to all of you, is that 46% of listeners say they've borrowed a digital audiobook from a library in the past year. So thanks for all the great work you are doing. We are, nervous about piracy. We saw that 47% of listeners say they got a free audiobook through YouTube or another file sharing service. We certainly hope they stick to the library when they want that listening. All right, next up, we're going to talk about genres. Fiction is the majority of sales, and these are from our sales survey. So this is publishers reporting data. They did $2 billion in sales in 2023. Our top genres were fiction, science fiction, and fantasy, which took the number 2 spot over mysteries last year and has stayed there. And romance just kicked the mystery suspense right out of the top 3. So maybe in the US, we don't like our blood and guts so much anymore. We want a little more love in our lives. The fastest growing genres, which we've seen throughout the pandemic, are those history, biography, memoirs, a lot of big celebrity titles in 2023. Health and fitness has been growing, religious and faith-based has been growing, and that romance, just been growing right up. We've been asking for the past couple of years about non-English language titles. It is still a small piece of the market, and we know that Spanish is the one that is being produced by our members the most, but it's still just 1% of revenue overall, but 36% increase last year, so it's coming on strong. All right. I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to find that the smartphone is where and how most people listen, a tablet and desktop, and the car speaker, of course. And in fact, listening while driving took the top spot. It has been, neck and neck where are you listening between home and the car, but we got back in the car in 2023. We back on the road, back commuting, and so that jumped up again. We still see a lot of people saying that they don't do anything else when they listen to audiobooks. They just relax, they use it a way to fall asleep. And of course, for those of you like me who don't love doing household chores, we're definitely listening while we have to do some of that. And of course, lots of exercising and walking outside. All right, those are all the stats. We hope that you celebrate June as Audiobook Month. If you follow at Audiobooks on all the socials, you'll see some of those stats and our huge June as Audiobook Month campaign. All right, I'm going to take off my APA hat and put on my LA TheaterWorks hat. We record plays, some of them live and some of them in studio. And we don't do a ton in the children's area, but here are 3 titles that we have that I think you will enjoy and are targeted to youth. First up is a new play that is coming. Jeannie Sakata is going to be adapting for us The Secret Garden. It's recording next month, so I don't have a cast to share, but this will be available starting in October. And we are moving to being an all-digital company because we are a very small team. There are still CDs available through library vendors and on our website, but that's coming to an end soon, so get those now. And Secret Garden is only going to be available digitally. 2 other titles that we've had in the mix. Bruce Coville, which is a fantastic author, and I was so pleased that he gave us the rights to allow these special recordings to be available to libraries. My Teacher is an Alien, which stars Lisa Bonet, who you may know from The Cosby Show and many other exciting things. This was recorded way back when, and we're so excited to have it available digitally now. We also have another title from Bruce, My Teacher Fried My Brains, all about 7th grade and what happens if your teacher is an alien. Also available digitally from LA TheaterWorks. In fact, all of our titles, as you can see from the next slide, are available at your favorite library vendor or direct. If you are a personal listener, we just launched a streaming service and we have 75 of our titles available, so you can check that out for 7 days for free. If you have any suggestions on titles that you would like to see recorded in audio, lots of plays that are important or something that you want to listen to, just send me an email at mcobb@latw.org. LA TheaterWorks celebrated on Sunday night its 50th anniversary. So we have been creating a collection of classic and contemporary plays for all listeners to make theater accessible across the globe. And we've been doing a great job for 50 years. So thanks to all of you for listening. I'll still be here And if you have questions about data or anything, please put those in the Q&A box and we'll be sure to get those answered for you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Michele. So before you mute yourself, or maybe you have already, if people want to find you at ALA Annual this later this month, how might they do that?
Great question. So LA TheaterWorks is going to be in the Publisher Spotlight booth. Additionally, I will be in the Pub West and IPC Indie Publishers Pavilion talking about print books as well. And we'll be there celebrating the Odyssey Awards. So if you are still there on Monday afternoon at 3:30 are the Odyssey Awards. We encourage you to come and hear about some of the wonderful titles that are going to be feted. And we'll be coming in from a nice lunch with our judges, thanks to all the work that they do, and some of the narrators and producers, really talking about the amazing productions that are done and are winning Odysseys and honored for the Odyssey, and both from YA and the youth areas as well.
Yeah, the Odyssey is going to be a great show. If our viewers, if you haven't been to an Odyssey presentation before, I do highly encourage you to make time in your schedule for that. They're just fantastic. Because we do have a little bit more time, I wanted to ask Michele, a
Yeah.
question came in asking about your data. Is it available to the public, your statistical data? How might someone get a hold of that?
It is. If you go to audiopub.org, right on the homepage, there is a link to the public data from our sales and consumer survey. It was carried in a number of places like PW, InfoDocket, Publisher's Perspective as well. So it's out there, but come to our site and you can get a copy of the data yourself.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on now to hear from Jen Rubens. Jen is the Associate Director of Library Marketing and has devoted herself for Penguin Random House Audio and has devoted herself to supporting the art of storytelling in some shape or form as long as she can remember, whether it's as a longtime library and audiobook marketer or on stage behind a mic. One of the first stages she performed on was at her local library as a kid. She won an Audiophile Earphones Award for her audiobook narration of And Then We Grew Up by Rachel Friedman. And she's also the voice of many book ads. Jen has worked at PRH for over 13 years, where it's always a thrill to combine her passion for books and storytelling with her love for libraries. Thank you so much for being here today, Jen.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be here, and I'm so thrilled to follow LA TheaterWorks and all those amazing stats, because obviously, as you can hear, my entryway and my love of audiobooks definitely stems from my love of the theater. And you can find, if you have any questions that come up after this webinar, you can email me at that email on the screen, or definitely check out our website, penguinrandomhouselibrary.com. You can find collections and audiobook news and collections with clips and much more over there. So next slide, please. And you gave me the perfect segue into the Odyssey Award. So thank you for that great intro. I really have a mix of some great backlist titles in this presentation, as well as things that you may not have heard about yet or may not know are coming to audio, because I really wanted to highlight what it is that makes audiobooks so special. And the perfect way to do that is to highlight some of these award winners. And so these are two incredible audiobooks that we're so thrilled were recognized by the Odyssey Award Committee. CC Bell's El Defo won the Odyssey Award for Children, and then Pedro Martin's Mexikid is an Odyssey Honor audiobook. And both audiobooks are graphic novel adaptations, and they're each performed by a full cast. And it's been so incredible over the years to watch these graphic novels be adapted into audiobooks and how this has grown into such an amazing art form. And it truly is an art form. So if you're not familiar with CC Bell's beautiful book, it's about a character who has a giant hearing aid strapped to her chest, and it's really hard to start at school that way, but this phonic ear becomes like a superpower. And so Cece becomes El Defo, listener for all, and she channels her powers into finding the things she wants most, a true friend. And what's really special about this production is that it adapts speech that Cece hears when she's not wearing her hearing aids for listeners, and it has a modulated effect. So it really brings this whole experience of what it means to hear or not hear into this audio production. And there's also an animated screen adaptation that you might have caught on Apple TV. but it's just really incredible. And then also, of course, Mexikid, which is the 2024 Newbery Honor winner as well, is about a Mexican-American boy's family and their adventure-filled road trip. And what's better than audiobooks and road trips, as we just heard? So this is the perfect combination, wonderful for listening in the car if you're on your own road trip. And so this is just a beautiful story with lots of family members and adventures and laughs and heartache. And it's a wonderful audiobook. And we hope that if you've missed both of these, that you definitely add them to your collections. Next slide. And if you've ever had the pleasure of attending an Odyssey ceremony or perhaps seeing one online over the last few years, you might know the specialness of what happens when these authors and narrators and producers all can get together to celebrate the audio editions of their books. And it's so memorable. I really encourage you, if you're at ALA, please join us. And I had to share some new books and audiobooks from previously awarded Odyssey winners, because there's something that I will never forget about when you see an Odyssey Award presented to the entire team and to hear from the authors on what that means to them. It's just so special. And so these are two that I hopefully you don't miss the audio editions of, because these authors write exquisite work that narrators are always thrilled to dive into. We have The Secret Language of Birds, which is about a girl who discovers a pair of endangered birds that are about to lay eggs in the marshes of her summer camp. And there's a secret plan that she hatches to help them. And this is perfect for kids who are drawn to animal stories and bird watching, which has become such a popular trend. And it's just an instant classic that captures coming of age moments and learning to spread your wings, pun intended. And I think it's a great STEM tie-in as well. And it's also a companion to the Odyssey Honor-winning Song for a Whale, which, you know, this can be listened to independently, but I think it's really fun for fans of Lynn's first novel to spot Iris, the character from Song for a Whale, and to find the connection between birds and whales. So there's just so much for this to be discussed in classrooms and in libraries and book clubs. And it's just also a great seasonal listen because of the summer camp setting. And if you're out, you know, taking a walk in nature or on a road trip again and looking at birds through the window, there's just so many wonderful connections you can make with kids and this audiobook, which is on sale now. And then also from two-time Newbery Honor-winning author of The War That Saved My Life and Fighting Words. And of course, The War That Saved My Life was an Odyssey winner, and Fighting Words an honor, is the newest book from Kimberly Brubaker Bradley, excuse me. And I will never forget hearing her speak at the Odyssey Awards for The War That Saved My Life. I mean, her connection to audio and the way that the narrator, Jane Entwistle, felt about reading her words was just incredibly memorable. And she is back, and she's just incredible. She knows how to combine kid enticing elements like her you know, castles and adventure with true history, emotion, humor, and heartbreak and adventure. And this is a return to that era of The War That Saved My Life and the war I finally won. And she has a new story with a bit of a mystical twist, but very grounded in reality as well, about a little known slice of World War II history, about a Jewish girl who's lost everything and has to decide whether to risk all that she has left to bring others to freedom. And it takes place in France. And so I hope that you won't miss this on audio as well. Next slide. And then these you probably know about, but if you've missed the audiobooks by any chance, make sure you add them to your collections. They're absolutely wonderful, read by two of the best narrators that I can think of. As you can see in the quotes on the slide, the Newbery medalist, The Eyes and the Impossible, is read by Ethan Hawke on audio, and he's just gotten incredible praise for this performance, and it was nominated for an audio award. And who doesn't want to hear a one-man stage show in an audiobook? I think that's the best. So definitely catch that. And of course, the incredible January Lavoie reads this wonderful book, 12 Dinging Doorbells, that came out back in late 2022. But I think if you've missed it, it's just, as you can see, as Booklist said, it's a terrific addition to any Representation Matters collection, and a fun way to reinforce early math concepts, which is great for kids. I certainly appreciate that. Next slide. And so speaking of, as I mentioned, graphic novels being adapted for audio, these are two backlist, or three rather, because all of Huda Fahmi's graphic novels are already available, but this is the first time that these are available on audio. And it's just such a joy for our team to have worked on these. and Breathe is new from Maya Kobabe, but Genderqueer, you must have heard, is the most banned book in America. And it's just so important that we have this available on audio to bring to even more listeners. It's been such a meaningful process to hear the producer talk about working with the author and how they work together on the whole adaptation and finding narrators to play the roles and deciding how to divide the roles up and adding diversity to the ensemble and the sound design. There's so many incredible assets that go into changing a graphic novel and adapting it for audio. And we're so involved with the authors themselves on this process. So it's just really wonderful that these beloved graphic novels are now getting to have a new experience and reach even more readers and listeners by becoming audiobooks. So I hope that if you didn't know that these were now available or coming, Who to F series comes in July, we just hope that you will look for them. And what's been very cool too, to listen to Maya talk about their personal connection to audiobooks, is that Maya loved Trini Alvarado, was one of our favorite audiobook narrators from childhood. And Trini actually is one of the narrators on Genderqueer and reads the part of the mom, which was such an amazing personal connection. And we just had such a joyful conversation as a group, talking about how this was going to be brought to life. So we hope you don't miss it. It's incredibly special. And then, of course, Huda Fahmy's acclaimed graphic novels, National Book Award finalists, are coming to audio in July for the first time, and we think are a must for every library audio collection. Next slide. And then talk about some incredible voices that can come to life on audio. We have, of course, George Takei, the incredible actor and civil rights activist and media superstar, and he's been Grammy nominated. And he's had a previous graphic memoir, They Called Us Enemy, that was an incredible award-winning book. And now there's a moving story for children ages 6 to 9, I would recommend, about growing up in Japanese American incarceration camps during World War II. And to hear George be able to tell his own story is truly a gift that I think is important to have on audio, and to be able to share, whether you do it by itself or whether you pair it with the book. And then also Bridges Instead of Walls was from legendary singer and civil rights activist Mavis Staples. And she's teamed up with the award-winning children's poet, Carol Boston Weatherford. And so you get to hear Mavis, she reads her story herself. It's such a special thing, I think, and so incredible for kids to be like, oh, is that who this book is about? I mean, I know when I share these with my own children, it's just so neat to be able to tell them, yes, that's their voice telling their own story. And she's, of course, Mavis is an extraordinary musician. She has an incredible civil rights history of her and her family being notable civil rights activists. And her 85th birthday is coming up. So that's a big celebration happening this year. And you might be hearing a lot about her concert appearances that she'll be celebrating. So we're thrilled to have her on audio. Next slide. So I had to jump into some fantasy. I have both on this slide. You'll see some middle grade picks and then some YA, because I think this is just such a perfect example of the excitement and kind of cinematic feel that an audio can bring to a story for a kid who just loves adventure. And so first up, of course, I couldn't leave out The Secret Library to the librarians. I'm so thrilled that we have this on audio. This is from National Book Award finalist Kekla Magoon, and it's just an incredible fantasy adventure about a girl who finds a library of secrets where every book is a portal to a different moment in time. So she gets to, dive into her own family's history, but also kids can learn about all different types of adventures, from pirates to different legacies of the past. And it's just so much fun. It's great for fans of When You Reach Me or Kindred. It's got plot twists and just timeless themes, and it's such a wonderful audiobook, and we hope that you'll check it out. And then we also have an exciting follow-up to Lay and the Fire Goddess. We have Lay and the Invisible Island. This is great for fans of Moana and Finding Ohana, two movies that play quite often in my house with my kids. And it's got mysterious invisible islands and dangerous spirits, and it's just such a fun listen. And also there are very few Pacific Islander or Hawaiian middle grade stories, and so this is a wonderful pick to offer. And this is a sequel, so there's more to come. It's a wonderful series. And then finally on this slide, Farah Noorzad and the Ring of Fate. This is great for fans of Rick Riordan Presents, that wonderful mythology-based fantasy series. And it's great for listeners looking for more Muslim-centered stories in middle grade fantasy. And it's about a 12-year-old girl who discovers her true Jinn heritage when a birthday wish gone wrong traps her father in a magical ring, sending her on an epic quest to free him. So again, this is just wonderful middle grade fantasy. All of these have just so many wonderful elements that I think exemplify the excitement of listening to audio with action and humor and adventure, all in one. Next slide. And you might have heard a lot about Blood at the Root. This is incredible. It's read by Jalen Hall, who's 17 years old. He is best known for the TV series All-American and for playing Emmett Till in the 2022 film Till. And this is just incredible fantasy that you may have heard the author talk about. He's been on TV a lot, and he talked about how like he was looking for fantasies that centered around Black teenage boys, and he could not find it. And so he wrote it himself in 12 days. He just knew that he had to fill this gap in the market. And this has been an instant bestseller. It's about a teenager on the run from his past, and he finds the family he never knew existed and the community he never knew he needed at an HBCU for the young, Black and magical. So you can all enroll in this fantasy debut. It's unlike anything you've heard before and read by a terrific actor. And then I think you're going to be hearing a lot about Impossible Creatures. It's already a bestseller in the UK. And Catherine Rundle is such an acclaimed author already. And this is about two kids racing to save the world's last magical place. And as I mentioned, it's the first audiobook in a new series. And she is being compared, this is being compared to like The Lightning Thief and Harry Potter, and for fans of Neil Gaiman and Philip Pullman. So just such an incredible blend of so many beloved fantasy writers. And I think you're going to be hearing a lot about this one. And it's going to be a wonderful listen, also read by an amazing actor. Next up. I wanted to just give a quick call out to some full cast recordings. There's so many neat things that audiobooks can do. And I think using a full cast in these cases, in Dear Wendy, there's a full cast that's used to not only portray dual points of view, but there are also unique voices given to social media posts. And then Everything We Never Had uses a full cast to portray different father-son relationships. And also the book spans so many different decades, from 1930 to 1965 to 1983 to 2020. So those multiple perspectives, I think, lend themselves beautifully to a full cast audiobook. And I wanted to make sure you didn't miss either of these. Next slide. Next slide. I think I'm almost out of time. Novels in verse. Oh, let's go back. I think I said it too much. Novels in verse on audio. This is another really unique thing that I think comes to life on audio in such a beautiful way. If you haven't listened to Louder Than Hunger, I had the pleasure of being in the studio and taking that photo of John Shu when he came in to read his author's note. And there's just so much gut-wrenching and heartwarming just language in his novel. And of course, he's a revered teacher and librarian and story ambassador. And in this story, he explores anorexia and self-expression as an act of survival. And it's just incredibly moving. It's a wonderful listen, and it really lifts itself off the page and comes to life, beautifully read by Jeff Ebner. And then also I'm From Here Too is coming this summer. And this is an eloquent novel in verse that follows an Indian-American Sikh boy through a year of change, challenges, and growth. And it's the first novel in verse from this critically acclaimed author who's written picture books in middle grade and young adult nonfiction. And I think it's definitely worth a listen to see how a novel in verse beautifully translates to audio. Next slide. I'm pretty much out of time, but I just wanted to remind you, especially as the parent that I am, these are lifesavers in the car. My son is obsessed with Camp Cretaceous and Jurassic World and dinosaurs. And if you didn't know this is available, all parents need to know about this. It's on sale today, Chaos Theory from Jurassic World. And then coming this fall, we've got Wednesday coming to audio. And then Ms. Rachel, if you're not familiar with Ms. Rachel, Google her. She's a YouTube sensation, especially for babies and toddlers. And she's going to be reading the audiobook herself of Ms. Rachel and the Special Surprise. And then finally, I know I'm out of time, but we have American Girl Audiobooks And if you didn't know about these, we hope that you'll check them out. We have so many. And I was in the store recently and I was like so proud to know that there's like another way to experience the stories and the dolls that everyone's so obsessed with. And now they're audiobooks too. And it's such a great addition to this entire universe. We have American Girl Doll of the Year, Lila, going for the gold, of course, during an Olympic year. So be sure to check this out. And then these are incredible nonfiction books. If you don't know about The Care and Keeping of You, 1 and 2, those are also available on audio. And that is it from me. Thank you so much. Be sure to check out our book buzzes. I'm going to send a follow-up email with links so you can sign up so you don't have to remember it right now. And that's it. Thank you so much. We hope you check out more at penguinrandomhouselibrary.com.
Thank you so much, Jen. Gosh, so many great things to listen to and to look forward to. I wanted to add that I just got the Booklist review of Genderqueer submitted, and it's another star for that one. So we're very excited about that. Yeah. And so we will see you at the Odysseys, or we'll see some Penguin Random House Listening Library folks at the Odysseys. Will there also be audio on the show floor?
Yes, please definitely check out our booth at Penguin Random House's booth, and we'll have an audio section with some posters and bookmarks and buttons and other ways that you can come hear about more things that are new from us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, now Jolene Bartow is up. Jolene is the marketing director at Dreamscape, where she works with the publishing team to release over 1,000 audiobooks a year. Take it away, Jolene.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. Super excited about this. I was thinking about how Jennifer was saying she listens to things in the car, and that's truly how I learned and began my journey as a reader, was listening to, and I'm giving away my age here, books on tape, like actual cassette tapes. But those stories still stay with me today and definitely became a part of who I was. So this is very exciting to talk about some audiobooks that are made specifically for younger readers. If we want to go to the next one. Just real quick, in case you haven't heard of Dreamscape before, we're an independent audiobook publisher. We do audiobooks across a wide range of different genres and age ranges. And of course, I am not talking about those 1,000 audiobooks we publish every year, thankfully for all of us, I'm sure. So I would encourage you to go check out our website, dreamscapepublishing.com, full catalog there, all of our books. Would love for you to go check that out. And you can also sign up for our newsletter there if you're interested in hearing about regular updates. And then we'll move on to the next one. So one thing just to note before we jump in, I have divided this out by different age ranges. So we'll start off with young readers or juveniles. This is ages between 4 and 8. So truly like your beginning readership, people who need either something to introduce them to reading or get them to encourage them to keep reading. And then we'll go into middle grade, which is ages 8 through 12. So longer audiobooks, chapter books will get covered in there. And then I'll finish it off with some young adults audiobooks as well. So for our teenage readers. So hopefully there's a wide range of not only genres and different kinds of audiobooks, but also age ranges, just depending on how you're building out your collection. We'll start off with the young readers or juvenile ages 4 through 8. And I'm really excited about these. They're super cute. First up, we have A Maleta Full of Treasures, or La Maleta de Tesoros. This is by Natalie Sylvester, who narrated not only the English, but the Spanish edition as well. So we're super excited to have these both available. I think this is great for kids who are either bilingual or learning Spanish. They can use these as reader aids to kind of get used to both languages. This book is super cute. It's about a young girl named Dulce, whose abuela comes from Peru, and every time abuela comes, she fills her maleta or her suitcase full of treasures from Peru, so they get to talk about her culture and her heritage. And before abuela goes back, Dulce decides that she's going to gather a bunch of treasures from the United States, from all her different relatives, so that abuela can take it back with her to Peru. So super cute, great way for kids to connect with any heritage and understand like a deep-rooted love, even though there might be generations and distance challenges there. So I think that's great for kids who might have grandparents, family outside of their general area and want to feel connected to them. Just a note, I'm going to talk about this later. The video editions are also available for these. They're read along and they're super cute. I'll talk about them more at the end, but I just want to make a note that both of these, the English and the Spanish editions, are available in video as well. Next up, we have A Garden in My Hands. This is by Mira Sharam and narrated by Mayuri Ben-Dari. This came out in May. And it's a great, very cute little audiobook that deals with a young girl who's getting her hands and arms done with henna before a wedding. And her mom's telling her the stories through these henna drawings. So it's a really another great one in terms of connecting with your culture, having that family, that root into your family and your heritage. It has great lyrical text and has really cute music with it as well. So kids kind of get brought in and fully immersed into the story as well. So very cute and excited for that one. And Vamos, Let's Go Read. This is by Raoul III. It's narrated by Gary Tideman. As you can see, I've put a couple different other covers down here because we've done several of these Vamos titles in audio. They're all super great. One thing I love about them is it incorporates Spanish vocabulary through there. So if you have kids who are learning Spanish or who are bilingual, I think this will be a great book for them. This one is especially, I mean, I think it's made for the librarians. It's about little Lobo, who's our main character. Him and his friends go to the Guadalupean Library Book Festival. So they all get to check out their books. So the perfect book to be in a library, great for language learning, and just the stories themselves are really fantastic. And then, of course, we have Let's Go to the Market, Vamos, Let's Cross the Bridge, Vamos, Let's Go Eat. So we have all the Vamos books in audio. And a spoiler alert, there's going to be a Vamos Halloween, which I'm really excited about as well. So we will have another one added to the collection. And next up, I just want to mention the questionnaires. This is a fantastic series. I'm sure almost everyone's heard of Andrea Beatty before, award-winning author. This series has also been adapted on Netflix for an animated series. So many of the kids might know the characters already and want to continue with being with those characters inside audiobooks. Another thing I love about this series is not only is it STEAM, so we have our science, our technology, engineering, art, and math focuses, which I think a lot of parents are looking forward to encourage their kids in those areas as they're learning. But it also has a wide range of runtimes and kind of reading levels. So you have everything from, Iggy Peck and the Mysterious Mansion, which might be a little bit shorter than Ada Twist Scientist, Show Me the Bunnies. So Iggy Peck is like a 15-minute, and then Ada Twist, Show Me the Bunnies is about an hour and a half. So it's more of a chapter book. So you have a wide range, but with all these same characters who are super lovable. So the series is great. This is just a handful of the titles that we have with it. Would encourage you to go check them out in audio. And next up, we have middle grade, ages 8 through 12. The first up is The Monarchs of Winghaven. It's by Nayla Morari, narrated by Kate Coventry. This came out last month. It is a fantastic book. I think it's just a really great story about a young girl named Sammy. There's a parking lot that's been kind of abandoned, overrun, if you will, but nature has kind of taken over. And so she goes as a young explorer, I guess you could say, a budding naturalist, and also a entomologist. She goes and studies all the bugs there, the wildlife, the plant life, and then she makes a friend with somebody from her school, Bram, who's a photographer. So you kind of have both the science and the art piece there represented by both characters, and they have to save this nature preserve as they find out a developer is going to be building on top of it. So it's a great story about nature, our connection to it, and friendship as well. So we're really excited about that book. Spindle of Fate by Amy Lynn. It is narrated by Jennifer Sunbell. Fantastic narrator. Super excited that she got to do this one. This is a Chinese folklore fantasy. So our main character, Evie May, discovers that her recently deceased mother was the head of Guild of Magical Weavers. So she goes into the underworld to go and bring her mom back. So I think any readers who are looking for a very rich fantasy world, has that folklore tie to it, will love this book. And it's a great one for middle grade readers who are looking for a rich fantasy novel. And then next up, we have One Big Open Sky. I'm sure you've heard of Lisa Klein Ransom before. She's a Coretta Scott King honor-winning author. So she is definitely fantastic, amazing author. This is a novel in verse about a young girl named Letty. It starts off in 1879 in Mississippi. and Letty and her family are moving out west. So it's kind of this intergenerational tale of herself and her family going out there. It talks about 3 different women's lives. And this is really a part of history, the Black homesteader movement, that it is not discussed, and there's not a ton of books on it. It's really underserved. So I think this is a great book to talk about that period in history. It tackles some pretty big themes too: autonomy and Black self-emancipation. So some big topics there, but done in this really beautiful writing. We don't have a narrator for it yet, but we always have such fantastic narrators on Lisa Klein Ransom's books. So very excited about that one. And then last in our middle grade section, Words Are My Superpower. This is by Harold Green III. It'll be narrated by them. It has tons of great, positive meditations for kids, and learning how to use their communication to soothe their anxiety, to feel better about themselves, mantras and positive thinking. Being a mom of a young kid myself, I just see, as he grows into his language and his communication skills, how much more confident he becomes. So I think this is definitely an amazing tool for young kids to be able to use their communication skills to express themselves. So very excited about this one. Comes out at the end of July. And it'll be narrated by the author as well. And then we're going to jump right into YA. So this is 13 up, so high school age children. And I will preface this by, I did put 2 scary titles in here for if you celebrate Summerween, which is just another excuse to celebrate Halloween earlier in the year because you love Halloween. So let's go ahead and jump in. We got 2 kind of spooky, scary books that I think young adults will love. The first one, Now Conjurers, it is officially on the Indie Next list, so it's getting lots of attention there. I think people will be paying attention to it. It's a debut novel by Freddie Kolsch. It's narrated by Jordan Diaz. It came out today, so very exciting. It's very original. So it's about this coven of young adults who find that one of their members of the coven has been murdered. Not only was he like kind of beloved, a star quarterback of the town, but he was also our main protagonist's boyfriend. So talking about love, found family, it has some great queer representation. Plus it's super spooky because the coven has to go and just find out why this happened. And they kind of find this dark entity and have to do some very spooky investigations. So very excited about this book. Came out today. I think young adults who are looking for something in the horror genre but is age appropriate will really love this book. And continuing my spooky theme for Summerween is Malicia. It's by Stephen Dos Santos. It has a full cast of characters, which is great because it does have some very complex characters in this. I would definitely suggest this more for high school level children just because of the deep dive, and that's kind of spooky, darker themes. But this takes place during Halloween in the Dominican Republic. So our main character, Ray, goes there because his family was actually killed in like a mass killing there. So he wants to investigate it, figure out why it happened. And his friends go with him, but his friends all have either nefarious purposes, selfish purposes, or actually are friend or foe. So it's a very interesting dynamic that gets placed because of the characterization in it. And the setting is very spooky. Definitely has that mystery and horror thriller feel to the entire book, but with also a very interesting examination on friendship and a deep character dive as well. So this one came out today as well. So if you're looking for spooky stuff, today's the day. And then next up, a little bit different, but The Sunken City by Emma Noyes, narrated by Renee Dorian. It comes out the end of this month. It's a fantastic fantasy novel. I think it kind of has like everything I love. We got witches, we got pirates, we got ocean setting. So really rich world building in this. We follow a young woman named Amar Bellamy and her adventures. This is the first in a series, so we'll continue to see additional titles in the series as we go along. So once kids get hooked on this, hopefully they will continue to keep reading within the series. And then real quick, I just want to talk about some of our award-winning titles. Elf Dog and Owlhead, The Walk, Where the Water Takes Us, Game of Freedom have all won audiophile earphones awards. So we're super proud of that. Really excited to always get that honor. And then The Skull and Bedazzled are audio award winners. So thrilled about that as well. Bedazzled is YA. The Skull is a young listeners. So a note too, I have this later, but we will be at ALA and Elf Dog and Owlhead. We will have a book signing and also an free audiobook download within the booth there. So we're thrilled about that. And then next up, to go back to this read along video, we're very excited about these. We've been doing these for years, and I think they're just a fantastic reading tool and literacy tool for young adult or for young listeners. So what we do is we take the and you've maybe seen something like this before. We take the illustrations from the books, we animate them, and then we take the quality, the high quality narration, the music that goes with that in the audiobook, and overlay it within this animated video. It also has read along, so you can turn that on or off just depending on the reader level, but it can be a fantastic, like I said, literacy tool to help kids not only visualize the book, but also get the chance to see the words on the screen and be able to read along, and then have that narration piece to help them as well. So on dreamscapepublishing.com, you can go check those out as well. We have a video section that has just our, what we call our iconographic books, where you can have the read along option. And these are just some of our social media handles. Dreamscapepublishing.com for our entire catalog. I've said that a million times. I apologize, but definitely check it out and see our other audiobooks. We're on social. We talk about audiobooks all the time, so we'd love to connect with you there. Again, we'll be at the ALA annual conference in booth 640. Tons of audiobook downloads will be there, so please come by. We'll have a bunch of posters out where you can scan them and get an automatic download for those audiobooks. And then we will have that Elf Dog and Owlhead signing, which we're thrilled about. And you get the audiobook there as well to start listening to that. And then the last slide is really just me saying thank you for everything that you do. Again, I don't know where I'd be without libraries, so I appreciate all the work that you do. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. My email's there. I'd love to talk about anything audiobook with you. And just a quick note, we do have these in digital and physical if you are interested, because I know sometimes that comes up as a question. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jolene. Those read-along videos are really wonderful. I've watched a few, and sometimes they're just they're so vibrant, and they bring to mind the reading rainbow that I enjoyed as a child. The way that you take the imagery from the books and you just bring it to life. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoy those.
Thanks.
All right. So moving on. Sharing audiobooks with kids can be such a rewarding part of our jobs, but sometimes it really does feel like a different animal than doing book readers advisory, print book readers advisory, which many of us have had classes in, we were trained in. There isn't as much talked about with regard to advisory for audiobooks. So I wanted to take a little bit of time here and talk to you all about that. And I feel like this is a great time because we now have this fantastic list of titles that we can think about when we're talking about how to talk to kids about audiobooks. So thank you to all the publishers for providing us with that wonderful, those backlists through the plays from LA Theater Works, as well as all those great titles from Listening Library and Dreamscape. So let's talk about some tips on how to get those into the hands of your patrons. So this is basic reader's advisory, but I feel like we can never talk about it too much. We need to remember when we're talking with anybody, adult or child, about what they're reading or what they'd like to read, it's a conversation. It's an interaction. We need to make sure that we encourage that kind of back and forth. And when you're working with kids, encouraging themselves, the children to express themselves can be part of that too. They're not always accustomed to talking with adults as about what they like. So let's just make sure first off that we assure them that what they're reading, what they want to read is great. We're excited about that. That they're asking us for tips and suggestions and recommendations, and be sure that you have that back and forth with them where they feel comfortable sharing with you. And then it's really a balance between what are they looking for and what do we have. And the irony of this is we can't really control either of those things. We with what the kids come into the library looking for isn't always what we have. What we have purchased for our library isn't always what's on the shelf. And so we are in a little bit of a back and forth dance here with that. And so we just have to do the best that we can with the resources that we have. Try not to be too stymied by that restriction and see it instead as an opportunity to highlight parts of your collection that you do have access to. Next slide. So when we talk about reader's advisory, appeal is a word that's thrown around a lot. So let's talk about audio appeal. There's a lot of overlap with audio appeal and print appeal. So if you are familiar with the vocabulary of appeal in print, a lot of it is going to carry over with audio, but there definitely are some differences that we can talk about here. So when we're talking about story in the context of audiobooks, not every audiobook, we can admit, is well, or every print book is well suited to audio or carries into audio in a really great way. So maybe you have a book that jumps around in time a lot. Does the audio of that story allow the child to understand that the time is moving back and forth? Are there markers with sound? Are there musical interludes? Do voices change? Things like that. So understanding how the story unfolds and if that's a good match for audio is something to consider. Pacing is super important with audio. And when we listen to wonderful narrators that just grab on to the content and they carry you through that story, it's really a wonderful experience. But we need to be sure that the pacing of the narration matches the pacing of the book. Is the child going to be entertained throughout? Are there parts that are a little bit slow that you might want to say, well, yeah, and then there's a little bit of historical description, but get through that, and then the adventure picks right back up again. Tone is going to be the feel of the listening. Does the audio help the listener understand what's going on? Is there one of those narrators where you can just hear them smiling? You can hear the humor in their voice. Those are just fantastic things that boost the impact of the book's tone. Characterization is a great thing to think about when you're talking about audiobooks and youth, because it's an opportunity to showcase a full cast or just a narrator who does a great job with voices and with accents and things like that. A lot of the titles that we heard about today really, I think, shine in the characterization appeal. There's full cast, there's all kinds of accent work and, moving through time and, in a way that helps kids understand time has passed. We're in a different decade now. And then finally, style. So with audiobooks, style comes in, and I think it's one of the most engaging and exciting parts of audiobooks. We have sound effect opportunities. We have music opportunities. There's all kinds of great opportunities for additional content, like we heard about where the author reads his author note at the end. Occasionally, there's an interview between the narrator and the author. Sometimes you get discussion questions. I listened to an audiobook for kids a while back that had word puzzles at the end of it. So there's all kinds of great ways that bring the audio experience to an elevated point where the kids are really going to get a lot more out of the audiobook than they might expect, than they might have envisioned going in. Moving forward. Something I like to do a lot when I'm working with kids is offer options. When you're talking with a kid about what it is that they'd like to read, sometimes they draw a blank, or they just tell you about the last book that they read because that's what's on their mind. And it's hard to make that transition between what you just liked to what you might like in the future. So a strategy I would encourage you to take on is to offer options. And then whether or not they choose one of those options, it kind of jogs their brain into articulating what it is that they do want. So you can say things like, are you looking for a narration, like an audiobook that's just one person reading, or do you want a lot of different people with a lot of different voices? Which sounds good to you right now? Are you listening alone on your device, or do you think you might want to listen to this audiobook maybe on a car trip with your family, or have it playing in the kitchen while you guys are getting lunches ready for the day? Understanding a little bit more about what their listening experience, what their expected listening experience is going to be like, can help you make a suggestion that works for them. Asking about how they plan to listen. Do you have a device of your own that you're going to listen to? Or should we limit our search to the things that are available on a playaway? That's another really important thing with children in particular who might not have a device of their own to listen. You can do this even with topics. you like fantasy? Do you mean like more dragons or more aliens? Things like that. And, you can throw some silly things in there to get them to smile and help connect with you a little bit. Anything that gets them thinking and gets them talking is a good thing to do when it comes to the listener's advisory experience. Moving on. I'm going to leave it here with you guys with a few tips. So here's the ideal way that the listener's advisory experience it unfolds. We first incorporate. So we're going to incorporate audiobooks with our regular reader's advisory banter. When kids come up to the desk, instead of saying, what is it that you want to read? Ask them, what do you want to read or listen to? Be sure that the audiobook options that you have at your library are easily recognizable, that they're there on the book list, so that they're there on the displays, that you have your playaways or your books on CD, or you have QR codes that link to your downloadables in all of those places. Just really encouraging people to see that audio is an option right along with the print. Number two is to facilitate. We do this all the time, helping people understand how to use the technology. Educate kids on what their options are, even if they're not options that they're going to choose from the library. If a kid comes in and has trouble getting their audiobook from Audible, if it's not our favorite, but we're going to help them do it, right? Because the most important thing is to help them get access to the books as much as possible. And finally, we're going to validate. We're going to be enthusiastic and build on what they love. Make sure that everybody knows that you are supportive of them listening to audiobooks, just like you'd be supportive of them reading print books. Maybe you want to do them both at the same time. That's fantastic too. If you try to do some listener's advisory and you find that the kid is kind of resistant, you know what? That's okay. Offer it again in another form, in another fashion, at another time, and it might be a better time. Not everybody absorbs audio information through audio. Sometimes, we remember to steer people toward the audio if they're having trouble connecting with print, but we have to acknowledge that some kids are just not going to connect with audio and they need that print. They want that print. They like having that thing in their hands, and that's absolutely okay too. We just want to continue that conversation and reassuring them that the library is the place to find what they're looking for. All right. Do we have any questions about my quick and dirty listener's advisory? All right. So moving on back to a little housekeeping before we say goodbye. Tomorrow, all attendees are going to receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, the title list, a certificate of completion, and this video is in recording. For more about our Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, like you see here on the screen, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for the upcoming ones that you see here. Whether you are traveling overseas, across the country, or via armchair this summer, we have your next beach read. Subscribe now to get the print and digital copies for Booklist and the digital shareable issues of our new patron-friendly product, the Booklist Reader, for a special webinar price of $99. In addition to these publications, you'll also get access to the archives, extra online content, and our 2024 Guide to Graphic Novels issue, which mails in July. Head over to Booklist, the Booklist website for details. Staff training, in-service, local conference, Booklist can help. You can now request free copies of Booklist and the Booklist Reader for upcoming staff training programs, so you can help the next generation of library workers become readers advisory, listeners advisory, and collection development superstars. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit our website or email info@booklistonline for more details. Thank you all so much for joining us today on our webinar. One more huge thank you to our fantastic panelists with all those great suggestions and our sponsors, LA TheaterWorks, Penguin Random House, and Dreamscape. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.